preparing us, and we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Andor Aftershow here on JLJ Media. I am the JLJ of JLJ Media. Of course, I could not do this alone. His voice is back to normal, but we love him anyway. It's Frank Moran.
Hey, everybody. Normal and boring. That's me.
Never boring. And he's here too. We grabbed him from the challenge, from the jaws of the challenge. We grabbed him. It's John Dunphy. Hi, John.
Hello. How's it going? It's my turn this week.
I love it. We are here to talk about Andor, the Eye, which was the whole light spectacle that happened on the show. And we're here to talk to you. Of course, like, subscribe, comment, hit those buttons, hit those bells. You know what to do. If you were looking for the audio version, we are everywhere. It was a huge hit for us. The show is growing and growing. I'm so happy that you found us. There are 1 million Star Wars podcasts out there and 1 million Andor reaction shows, but you guys are finding us and actually giving us the time of day. So thank you. So go anywhere. iHeartRadio, Spotify, Deezer, Google, Apple, wherever you find your shit, it's there. Okay, so I'll make sure to tell that. Okay, so let's start with initial reactions of episode 6, which was the longest episode. Well, the longest in length, but it didn't feel much longer than the other ones. It felt about the same. So we'll go with you, John, first. Mr. Dunphy, what do you think of the episode overall?
I think that this was some of the best Star Wars ever made. Honestly, I thought it was visually stunning. I thought the story was great. Like, we've been building to this moment. And the episode itself, like, it felt like I said, the visuals were amazing, but then in the middle of all that, you've got this, all these very tense moments. You still get the continuing, like, I loved watching, like, Lieutenant Gorn, as I forget the name of that commandant now, Jay Holt or something like
Jay
that.
Holt,
Or Jay
yes,
Holt,
yeah. Jay Holt.
He's talking about, we'll just a few ceremonial things, and then we'll tuck into a table and escape the stench or whatever, talking about, like, the locals on the planet. Like, you get, like, Gorn knowing that he is, like, working against the Empire, but just putting up with all this shit. Like, I felt like moments like that were great to me. The tension, like, was just so great. I just felt like all the action was so good. It was very emotional, the episode too, as you moved through and things, certain things happen, and we'll get into, but I loved this episode. It was some of the best Star Wars I feel like I've seen maybe ever. But yeah.
Perfect. Frank Moran, what are your thoughts?
It was I
was waiting for to say, like, meh.
I said to James before, I was like, I cannot wait for Frank to get here.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, it was okay. It was fine. It wasn't all that.
No, it was an enjoyable episode, and I feel like we all thought that the heist would go wrong, but none of us were quite sure how it was. So I was figuring out how it was going to go wrong, how they were going to succeed. Made for a really interesting episode. Who made it, who didn't, it was really cool. So I'm looking forward to it. And I know that we saw, like, there was an article with Diego Luna explaining that, like, the rest of the season there's going to be a time jump, so it kind of fills in how we're going to fill in the rest of the year that this season's supposed to cover. So I'll be curious to see if that means that next week we go to a time jump or not. I'm curious to see what happens.
Yeah, for me, I said before the season started, I was not excited. I was just like, I'll watch it, of course, sure. It's so far my favorite series. For me, of Star Wars, besides Mandalorian, I feel like it's making the right moves. I have very little to complain about. Visually, I was going to mention, I have some things I'll mention specifically later. Physically, I like the way they shot certain scenes, like the way things looked. It looked very Star Warsian to me, this episode. The tension, like John said, tension. Oh my word, it really built. And I had a feeling things would go wrong somewhere, but I thought it would go wrong everywhere, and it kind of didn't. It kind of, we lost some people, clearly, but, like, it still got away. It still kind of worked. Yeah. So it's kind of, I loved it. I'm loving the series. I'm seriously like, wow, I will not doubt a Star Wars series again. After this.
I feel like you can still doubt some.
Oh,
But I do feel like I have much more confidence in Tony Gilroy
Yeah.
okay.
so far, for sure. So like for the rest of the season and season 2, I mean, I feel very confident to be in his hands.
But no, see, I want to throw something back in your face, Frank.
Throw it in my face. I like things thrown in my face, James. You know that.
I am going to throw it back in your face. Well, we were saying before on another series, I'm okay. I'm not really worried about how these series are going to go, because we were talking about Andor, you're like, I feel fine. In this case, you were right. Yes, Andor is fine. But you're like, I'm fine with some of these things. I'm like, the last couple of series have thrown me off. And I'm like, I don't have the confidence. But you said you always have the confidence they will come through and, and give us some good series. And I'm seeing some of these series were not the greatest, Frank. They weren't.
Well, true. I mean, I would think that we could all agree that the ending a story is probably one of the most challenging things.
Okay.
Because, however you may have paced it over the course of however many episodes you have, trying to get everything to kind of tie in on that last episode sometimes feels too rushed, sometimes feels underdeveloped. It's hard to get a really satisfying conclusion. And so, I mean, I will fully admit that, certainly Andor could go that way. And by episode 12, it could not be a satisfying conclusion. But as of right now, I feel in good hands.
So do I. I was saying right now, I mean, in this case, I feel it's restored some of my faith in a Star Wars series. I guess that's what it means for me. It's
yeah.
Whether the next series are great or not, I'm kind of excited for them now. I'm like, okay, we'll see what happens. Yes, John.
I'm also not I'm not too concerned with episode 12. Like if we get to the end of season 1, I'm not really that concerned with it falling flat, because we've already been renewed for a second season, right? Which means I feel like they're very confident in the full story they have through season 1. You know what I mean? I think you're right. Like we saw, you could go back to Game of Thrones, right? Like people hate the way that show ended, but still think of it as like one of the greatest TV shows of all time, right? But the ending was not handled in the best way.
That's most endings, right? Like Lost,
right.
Nobody likes those endings.
Right, but I feel like at least for season 1, I think we're going to be good here. We probably, we're going to get to the end of season 1, and it's still going to be, we'll still have the same, good feeling about the show. I think, and my confidence in that is because of the fact that they've already greenlit like the next season or whatever. So,
yeah, I mean, I feel like the big difference will be like season 1 is the first year, and then season 2 is going to cover years 2 through 5, and with so I think with 4 3-act stories, so that'll be interesting to see how that goes compared to this season's pace.
And I would say, even with Cassian knowing he has survived, clearly he's going to survive. It's curious about everybody else. You're wondering about who's not going to survive or who is. I mean, everybody else is the thing, because we know he's going to make it, but that's actually not a problem for me, because now we're just waiting to see how he gets to where he gets to. So I actually don't mind that as much. It's like, okay, now I get it's like chances are he's not going to get killed, obviously, this thing, but his colleagues can. I mean,
yeah, and I think that's almost just as big as not knowing. Obviously, we know Cassian is going to survive the series, but whether we didn't know that or not, I feel like the people that he's working with, like these people that in this first group that we've met, it's just as big to me that we don't know if they're going to survive or not, because I feel like each person that he works with and loses along the way is part of why he is the way he is, who he is once we get to Rogue One. So I feel like the losses that he suffers throughout this series will sort of kind of tell that story of like, how did Cassian become Cassian that we saw first in Rogue One? We're kind of seeing that now, the people that he met, the people that he worked with, the people that he lost, and I feel like each one will be kind of like an important thing that he sort of takes something away from to the point until we get to that moment in Rogue One. But I don't know.
So beginning, one of you two mentioned, I hear which one, mentioned how the leaders, the colonel and the Imperial J-Hold, whatever, we're talking about the people of the planet that come for this festival, the Sky Comes Festival, and we're getting some backstory. Originally there were 15,000, got down to 500, and there's only 60 of them left. And the way they were talking about them was I liked the way it was shot, with Lieutenant Gorn saying behind them, just standing there listening to them talk shit about these people. And the way they talk about they like perfume, or there's all this shit talking about them. They do whatever we throw at them and all this stuff. And it reminded me, just a little side note, it reminded me, I speak Spanish, and in certain circles, some folks don't realize that Latinos come in every color. They don't realize that. Or if you live in a big city with a lot of Spanish, you could know Spanish too, like in New York, LA, like you could know Spanish also. And I would know people who speak Spanish would talk shit about me, or people that look like me, like black folks or whatever. Actually, it happened in the city council in LA this week, as Frank knows. That's happening right now. But I've been around people when they're speaking in front of me, thinking I don't know what's going on. I would always I would speak Spanish to them, and they're like, their faces are crack, and it was hilarious. But at first, to stand there and hear them talk, you hear it. And I like the way who knows who these actors are? I don't know any of these actors' names because they're people I don't know. But I like to look at his face where he's just kind of like standing. But the way they shot it was between the two guys up front, over this proudly overlooking land, talking shit, and he's like standing there taking it because he knows. You can tell he wants to just rip their faces off, but he's just kind of like taking it in. It just reminded me. I've been straight since I know it before, so this reminded me of that. I love the way it was shot and everything.
Yeah, I've noticed that. Like, you can just see the disgust in his face, but he just has to keep his mouth closed for now, but like you could just see like it's boiling over in him. Like
he kept checking his watch. There's all this time stuff. Like limited attention to the show. I didn't unclench my butt cheeks till it was over. I mean, I was just like the whole time. It was like they did such a great job with the tension of like setting the scene. It was like everything has to go well tonight for different reasons. Everything has to go well tonight. Yeah. That's their big thing. And I was like, but I just want to say I love the way those scenes were shot and how they kind of did it, and these guys just have just no shame. The Imperial has no shame, not at all. Frank, no shame.
No, I mean, I guess it's like that, like the handcuffs of comfort that you place on these people, where it's sure they're very, the eye is a very sacred ceremony for them, but as they're saying, like the Empire doesn't have to do anything. They just have to put up some bars and offer up some comforts, and slowly just start chipping away at those numbers until you only get like 60 people showing up, and that's it.
It's so great.
I like the because I know it was in the trailers, that quote of Cassian talking about the Empire and how they've just become so fat and satisfied, right? Mm-hmm. And I feel like we almost got a little illustration of that in this episode when you saw the commandant, the officer, trying to put his belt on, being like, this is compressed, it's not stored properly. And it's like his wife, like, maybe you've expanded.
Yes, that's my life, John, every day. I'm like, wow, this belt's gotten smaller. Like, what happened?
Right.
What's going on here?
But it was just funny, like that little minor moment of this guy just trying to put his belt on, and it's like, but like it has so much meaning in a way, because it's like exactly what they've become, so fat and satisfied. They don't notice anything. They don't, they don't care. It's like
12 years. They've been doing this thing for 12 years. Like, you just get comfortable after a while. You do get fat and satisfied. That's what happened. That's what happened to me 2 years in COVID. I got fat and satisfied. I was just spreading this way. I was like, okay, well, there you go. Well, I was sad. Have fun in Zooms.
I mean, I just got fat. I'm not really satisfied. I didn't get that part of it. I didn't get the benefits.
I have to say, because we brought up the tension of the episode multiple times already tonight, and I feel like the acting went a long way in that, but I also feel like the music in this episode was so good, and that contributed a lot to that feeling of tension. I thought the music was phenomenal in this episode.
I think also like the shoot. I also the cinematography. What shots they chose, showing people's faces, going back and forth, and like I said, homeboy looking at his watch, looking at his watch all the time, and they have these exterior shots. I thought it all added to it. It's like the ladies were in it. I shot the ladies there, so we'll get to that in a second. But I agree with you. The music, the cinematography, everything. I think it all contributed. Right, Frank?
Oh, and what I liked is at least for me, there are those potential story red herrings where when you see, as we're talking about the commandant and his belt, but the son's there and he's like, oh, I don't want to go, I'm not feeling well. So already in my head, I'm like, oh, he's staying behind, and then Andor's going to run into this kid, and then how does he make the heist work if this kid's in the midst? But nope, that didn't become a thing at all.
It did. And I was shocked too. He got kidnapped, but I mean, he didn't. I thought it'd be a whole separate thing too. It didn't work.
Also, real quick, what is with it? What is with this series and like the sweetest women in the world being married to like the biggest assholes ever? Right? Like, this
That's
woman, like kissing her son on the forehead, like, you know, like what if he's ill? He might have a fever, and like like the dad just being such a dick, and then the same thing with Mon Mothma's husband being such an asshole. Like, what is this?
I think, you know, for me right there, I think it is. I think because they weren't always that way. I think that power corrupted them. So the husbands, so I think at one point they were these young, idealistic young men who got corrupted by power and the empire. And I think, and that's what's happened. And so now these women are stuck with these guys.
Right.
You know? Or maybe the women like the power on some level. They kind of like that powerful man.
Right.
Well, I don't know anything that's going on, but I don't know what's going on, but I love this guy.
Right. I see. I am interested then because that's interesting to me because like I want to learn more about Mon Mothma's husband then, because in this story at this point, Mon Mothma is a senator, you know, so like you would think in that relationship she's the one with the power, you know what I mean? Like, so I'm curious to see like if we'll get any sort of like backstory on how their relationship started. Maybe, probably not, but.
But you should say that we might. Remember, they showed up little stories. I mean, we have another 6 episodes. We might, right, Frank?
No.
Oh no, I think, John, that's an interesting point, because I feel like the societal elite almost like look down on anybody that's doing like government work. Like, no, whatever. Who are you? Nobody cares. You're boring. You're boring.
Right.
But this series does seem to go around with the 3 characters. We might get some more story with them. We might. I mean, I don't know. We may or may not. I mean, I don't know. I feel like we're not done with them.
Definitely, yeah. I feel like we've seen at this point, halfway through the season, we have not seen much of Mon Mothma, and I think we're going to start to see a lot more of her, honestly, as the season goes on. Personally,
well, that's why I like this episode, because because the season was building to this rebellion thing, and so I was like, we got it. I'm glad it was just basically about that. At the very end, we got they're reacting to it, like it got out to everybody. But I like that this was mostly about the actual rebellion, of the actual thing happening. I think we needed that, so we just get that out the way. And now the manifestos. I think some stuff's going to come up because of this episode. It will come out for later. So I think so. I'm kind of glad that they came on at the end a little bit. That's it. But I think there's a reason behind it that we will see, and that goes back to now we have the rebellion. So we pick up with them. They're getting ready. They're getting ready for this thing to happen tonight. And we learn a little bit about Jeremiah. He was a stormtrooper.
Yeah.
And it's like how they kind of throw things out there. And it's like, because he's so boss, he always so boss. He always he likes taking an order. And he's like, because he was a stormtrooper. Like, oh. That's our second stormtrooper who turned over in this that we know of in the series that became so.
Right. I wasn't expecting that, but it did make sense then, like when we heard it, because I did get that more of like a military vibe from him. Like he kind of knew, you know, but yeah, I wasn't expecting that. But it was cool, like when they kind of threw it out there. They're like, oh yeah, he was a stormtrooper. You know?
Yes. And also, like I said, I realized the ladies are a big part in this episode. I wasn't sure. Because last year, because they didn't go with them, I was like, oh, are they done? But they had a big part of this too, obviously a huge part of it. I did not realize. So I was like, oh, okay. So they're all getting themselves ready. The lights in the sky start to happen, like by one. You got that going on. And so now the guys now it's like they meet up. Everybody's meeting up. Gorn and everybody, and there was squad 3. There were several squads, and the people arrived. Like everything was coming together. Like seriously, it was like totally choreographed episode. It was like now the people are here. They're pretending to be, soldiers in front of now the commandant and and Gorn. They're gonna try to play it off, and I was like, oh my god, this is happening. Oh my god, this is happening. Oh my god, I was just like, oh my god, this is happening. It was just like, it just was really good. And the ladies were off on their own, who were about to do their own little thing to help. So it's like, oh, okay. So they were doing their one thing. The ladies swim on something to the Imperial thing and get there and do their little setup. And so, and meanwhile, our team is waiting to hear from them if it's a go. Again, tension. The Imperial Commandant comes out with his wife and son. They have the raggedy fur, like that ratty fur or whatever, to give to the people, whatever. I love that homeboy was like, I always say he just like, thank you very much. Like he didn't say what the guy actually said to him, which was kind of funny.
Right.
That still nothing's happened yet. At this point, it's kind of like, okay, we know something's about to go, but we're not there yet. And I'll stop at that point. What are your thoughts on that next section?
For me, I mean, what I loved was just the nervousness of finally giving the go.
Yes.
To, like, we're actually going to do this. Just sitting up there on that dam, Val's just sweated out like, are we go?
She was like, oh, I felt it. I felt Val just like, we're really doing this, right? Like we're really, and Sid was like, okay, bitch, are we doing this or what? Like, why?
Yeah.
And they're waiting. The tension was they're waiting. And Gorn's like, everybody's in position, and Holmes was like, I don't know if I can do this.
Yeah, I mean, you think like this has been like however long in the planning, and so it all seems like, oh yeah, we got this. But then to be in the moment, like, are we doing? Yeah, are we really going to kick this off? Because there is no going back at all.
No.
Yeah. So I guess this was Vel's her first time being like in charge of a mission or something. You know, like she's probably been a part of other little rebellion missions before, but this feels like, this feels like a kind of a big mission to like have somebody that's going to lose their nerve at the helm. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like you're sneaking into this Imperial base, stealing a lot from them, taking, Imperial officers prisoner and all that. So it was just interesting to me to see.
But isn't that very Star Warsian of them to do that though? They always add kind of human element in something. They usually do. They'll throw something in there.
Sure.
Because you think he's just tough and strong and what's going. Of course, I always add some kind of element in there. I always feel like that's a Star Wars thing.
It was funny to me because she felt like, when Stellan showed up with Cassian, Luthen, right? Luthen is Stellan's character. That's how you say it, right? So Luthen shows up with Cassian, and like Vel just seemed so like the fact that she was like so willing to go back on at Luthen, be like, this late, the team's not going to like this and this and that. Like, you're arguing with this guy. It's clearly higher up in the rebellion than you are, and now it comes time to do the mission, and you're the most timid of all. Everybody else is like, are we going or not? And you're sitting there on the bridge, like that girl Cinta had to be like, Val, get down. Because she was just like looking over the side of the bridge. It was like, get down. What are you doing? It was interesting to see that like conflict to me in Val. While everybody else on the team seemed to be way more like, let's go. I didn't expect Val to be so hesitant with some of these things, but I guess she feels like she has these people's like lives on the line. If I tell them to go, then we're really in it. But if I don't say go, then there's still a chance for everyone to walk away, unhurt. So that was interesting to me too, because it felt like, okay, this was probably the first time she was really in command and really had people's lives at stake that she was in sort of like command of. So that was an interesting moment to me, like for that reason. This is probably her first time with like real lives on the line that she was responsible for. And you could see that she was like really grappling with that, I felt like. But
I mean, given how important, as Luthen has said, the stakes of this mission are, I mean, I would love to know what the current makeup of the rebellion is, because is like Vel and her team like the best that they have for this, or the only people that they have for this? Just I'm curious just to see, because it does. You might, looking at it, you might think like, aren't there a few more qualified people we could get instead?
No,
right. No, they're clearly not.
No, Frank, that was the best.
That was the best.
The best. So now, as we're talking about all that, they start the plan. Says we're on point, and they take the commandant and the wife and the son hostage. That was one thing. And they get inside or whatever, and he's insisting, I won't, or whatever. And then badass Cinta comes down and shoots somebody who's had a point gun at them. So I was like, okay, the girls get a little moment. So they will go to the payroll vault. That's the whole thing. While these people are outside, in the Sacred Valley, waiting for the sky to happen. Now the lights are increasing. There's like, a few more happening now, whatever. And they're all mesmerized by it. It's like everybody's just like, like lights. But it was a pair of they disabled the comms, so that's also they can do that. They tie people up. The women have a moment.
Of course.
They didn't show there was no kissy or hug or notes that they tell me we're gonna be okay. I was like, I know what you're saying, I love you. I don't know. So they had a little moment.
What would you have done right there if one of them said I love you and the other one said I know? What would you have done?
Like, oh my God, Star Wars, my God. I would have had a gay gasp. What I've done. And what's funny is, as they're in there, and they get in, and they see all the other stuff. It's funny how they use their people to help them load the stuff.
Yeah,
I thought that part was kind of funny. It's like they use their people. I was thinking, when I saw it, I was like, "There's all that stuff they have to grab." Like, oh yeah, just use them. That was kind of fun, and I love
looking at the size of that stash.
It was huge.
Yeah.
And at first, I thought like the plan was to get all of it, and I kept looking and go, "There's no way they're going to be able to get all of that in time." And sure enough, they weren't.
Yeah, they did. But I was like, "Wow, that's a lot of stuff." And then Lieutenant Gorn in the combat had little moments when he realized it was him. Always great writing. He was like, you'll be hung for this. Because after serving under you for 7 years, I deserve a lot more. I was like, ooh,
yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
He knew it. I mean, I probably had to carry out all kinds of atrocities while he was under, just for the rebellion, for all this stuff for them.
I did like that he had that chance too, as he was walking down the stairs too, and the commandant was just like staring at him. He goes, "Stop gawking and keep pushing." I was like, yes, probably the first time he's ever given him an order, that he's given the commandant an order. And I was like, that's so badass. Hell yeah.
It was. And so they're loading stuff up, and Cassian's trying to start the ship and all that kind of stuff. And the TIE fighters and all that. So there's a lot going on, and it's going pretty well. Like, okay, it's all working out. Now something's going to happen. And what happens? Those guys are on top. Something's wrong. The lights are out. What's going on? Let's go downstairs to the payroll vault. And they walk in on what's happening. So the commandant, he has a heart attack, right? Or something happened to him. He was like,
that's what it seems like.
Fat and old to move shit. So he keels over, and that starts a whole fight, and people die.
I don't know. What I loved about this is certainly we had attachment to some of these characters because we spent a few episodes with them. But I also appreciated the nonchalanceness of their death. For example, like there's this movie, The Rapture, with David Duchovny, and yes, where there's a scene where a gunman goes through a business office, kind of flips his wig and starts killing people. Yeah. And David Duchovny was, one of the main characters in the story, just casually killed, and the camera doesn't dwell on it, doesn't make a big deal of it. He just gets killed, and the camera just moves on. And what I liked about this too is that, yes, we just treated it sucks. We've got to know these people, but the camera doesn't linger, doesn't try to milk any of the emotion. It's just, these people are just falling in the line of the cause.
So Gorn dies, Terriman dies, and the shootout stuff. And the other bad guys die too. But those are the two main ones. At that moment, they die. You're like, oh, that's it. I mean, Gorn gets he goes, cover me.
Yeah.
And
Gorn literally got like a split second. We just literally watched him get shot and then fall to the ground. That was it.
Right, that was it.
Terriman, he got shot, and like they didn't do much, but they did have one moment where Val was like, "No," and then she like ran onto the ship. Like that was it. I felt bad for Gorn more than anybody else. We probably knew we knew the least of any of that group, but I actually felt worse for Gorn. I wanted Gorn to get out of there.
But no, I think it was poetic. He had to die. He did. I mean, I guess it's kind of like
honestly, he said it himself. He said, "I deserve worse."
Yeah,
and he got it. He got shot on his way out. On his way out, he was trying to leave.
Meanwhile, Cassian almost gets choked out. We knew he wouldn't get choked out, obviously. But literally, they are able to take off. The TIE fighters go off on their end. They actually he's trying to start this ship. in the middle of the whole thing, Nemec gets crushed. Oh my god, that was kind of crazy. I was like, oh my god. And so he gets kind of crushed as they're taking off in the lights of the sky.
That sequence was phenomenal.
I loved it. Loved it.
Oh,
go on,
so
Frank.
great.
Loved it. I'm flying blind. What do? Go, climb, dive. I mean, that whole sequence was very Star Wars. It was very Star Wars.
It was so gorgeous.
I love the whole thing. I loved it. Loved it.
This was one of the most like beautiful visuals we've ever gotten in Star Wars.
Yeah.
This whole scene. This is why I say that this is some of the best Star Wars we ever got, because we've never gotten anything like this. Like, it just looked so amazing. I'm gonna, when we get off, I'm gonna watch this scene again, just because I've watched it like 4 times today.
Yeah.
It just looks amazing.
I agree. I totally agree. And I remember they had that shot where everybody's staring at the sky. The soldiers, the people are crying, like just staring at the sky. It's like I'm like, that's interesting. In this sacred valley, whatever. Nemec's in pain, he can't feel his legs. Val's like he's dying. Skeen's like, just let him, we gotta save him, get to the doctor. They find a doctor, and I found out I didn't know his name, and so I found out later. I was like, it makes sense because he had 4 arms, kids. It was Dr. Quad Paw. I was like, that's right, he is a Quad Paw. I got 4
Quad Paw, yeah. So
I
good.
loved it. And he was trying to save him. Meanwhile, outside, we have Cassian and Skeen talking. Everything was a lie. Everything was a lie. Everything was a lie. And he just wanted to split the money and run, basically. And try to use their shared kind of past of like, we always step over people to get to the top and all this kind of stuff. And then Cass just shoots him. I'm like, oh, that's it. He's dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how the two of you were feeling. Like, John, were you feeling like, oh, this is, we see it, they're going to get out of this mission, and whoever survives, they're going to start bonding, and that's how he gets sucked into the rebellion, and that's how we'll continue on the rest of the season. I was not expecting that conversation with him and Skeen to happen, and it to go the way that it did.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I agree. Although it makes so much sense to me now that Skeen would try to like draw suspicion towards Cassian. So I think that this was probably Skeen's, maybe not his intention all along, but he clearly saw the opportunity, right? You had Gorn and Taramyn both get taken out at the facility they were at. They escape. Now you've got Nemec, who's just been injured. I really believe that Skeen's whole thing of like, oh, this kid, this is the only reason that we're here is because of this kid. I think that was all a ploy, and he saw an opportunity because he actually made a point to say that Vel didn't want to compromise the mission, and that's why she didn't want to go to the doctor for Nemec, right? So and then you have Skeen crying and holding onto Nemec and all that stuff, and I'm thinking to myself, these lines at the end of the episode, if this is how he really felt, this doesn't make any sense to me. And it makes me feel like because Nemec was injured and Gorn and Taramyn were killed, now I have an opportunity to take us. We're not going to get to our destination for the end of the mission. I'll take us to this doctor. The only people that can stop me now are Vel and Cassian. And Cassian's, he's had a similar past to me. We've both been in and out of prison and blah, blah, blah. I can talk to him. I can reason with him. I think he saw an opportunity where now he could pull a heist within a heist and steal all this money, all this hard work that they had done to try to, take down the Empire. And he tried to capitalize on that. And it's just funny to me because he's the one that gave Cassian the hard time. Like, oh, we can't trust this guy. Why is he here? And this and that. And it's like, no. Skeen was the one all along. And that's why he was being so accusatory towards Cassian, because he was really the one that everybody had to worry about. And he wanted to try to shift the blame off of himself. And it's like everything worked out perfectly for him, where he thought he could have gotten away with this big heist again within a heist. But Cassian wasn't having it.
Exactly. Yeah. You said exactly.
Because I have to admit, like, him saving wanting to try to save Nemec. You feel like he was getting kind of drawn into the cause a little bit. He's connecting with these people, and he's becoming more than somebody who's just in it for the money. That moment. But then once they get to that planet and it starts unraveling, I mean, he's not even giving a Vel a chance to even kind of state her case or her purpose. He's just like, everybody's like Skeen. Everybody's just in it for themselves. They don't care. So why should I care? And it feels like any sort of efforts that he was making towards kind of changing his attitude were quickly dashed by Skeen's turn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep, I agree with that. And then we have the moments where he gets killed. So I was like, wow, okay, he's dead. And then we get the moments where now it's Cassian versus Val. And he tells him the homeboy is going to turn on you. So I'm like, you gotta work this out. And he was like, I just want what I came for. I was promised my portion and the ship. You can have everything, you can have whatever else. I don't really care. I just want that. And he takes that crystal and says, go back to Luther. So he's not going back to him. He's like, I'm done. I'm going my direction, wherever that is. And homegirl, and Nemec dies, of course, on the table. But he goes, he wants to have this manifesto. I don't. That's fine. But he really insisted, which we know is going to do something for him, obviously related to Rogue One. I mean, we know a manifesto. Yeah. We know this is like important. They talked about it in the last 3 episodes. It's important. So I was like, yes, he has to take it. It's going to do some kind of influence, clearly, in the future.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that handing over of the manifesto is very, very important. I think.
Yes. Very important. Frank.
I agree too. I mean, we still haven't, as you know, John's been excited about getting to the point where we see what Caspian was talking about when he says, like, you know, the things that he's done for this, you know, for the rebellion. I mean, I feel like that seems like it's going to be a season 2 thing, because I mean, I think we got to first get him in, and then you just see how hard it is to try to, you know, maintain your kind of morals while you're fighting against some evil foe, and you become almost as bad as they do in the process. So I feel like we'll have to see him go through that kind of crisis of the soul, perhaps next season.
So I just want to say hi to everybody in the chat room. Thanks for hitting the like buttons. People are saying yes, the visuals are great, but we're only 25% through the writing of 2 seasons. Yes, that's what we said too. Heist in a Heist. Yes, it was played well. You hit the like button, of course. A manifesto, a public declaration, policy and aims, especially one issue before election of a political party or candidate, written by a rebel. That's that. What else are they saying in there? That's why that sounds good. So yes, people are just like, yeah, I mean, and what you guys in chat? You guys like the episode? Like, you guys thought it was good? Because right now, as you said, it could go any direction. From we haven't finished. We have the last little parts, but I just want to say from this point, it was a successful mission. So it was successful on some level, and now it's getting out to the galaxy. This happened clearly in the galaxy, but it was successful on some level. So now Cassian gets his bits, and he did what he was supposed to do. And then some people died. Oh well, but Val, it worked. So go back to Cinta, I guess, and they'll live their lesbian ways or whatever I'm going to do over there. And then we got, and then I guess the Imperial, they'll be pissed because of what happened. They'll, you know, I mean, it's like now it can go any direction. And now we're seeing some conflict about to happen. And the last couple of scenes are now it's kind of getting out to people. This emergency meeting, everybody was shuffled in, which again, I love that set. First of all, I love that set. At Coruscant, I keep forgetting how to pronounce the name, but the Galactic capital, the Imperial security place. So they're all in there, and our girl, blonde chick, she's in there looking intently, and like we get to figure out what's going on. And then Mon Mothma in front of this like half-empty Senate, no one really paying attention to her, and then she sees what's happened, and then he goes to Luthen back at the artifact place, and someone mentions Aldhani. Yeah, he's like, what? Yeah. And then of course his laughter at the end. So now I like the way it was set up. It was mostly about the rebellion, the actual rebellion, and then at the very end we get pieces of reaction. I think with Luthen ending, I thought it was a great end. I thought it was great to end on him. That's how the whole thing started. It was like him going, it was like this whole thing. And so I liked the way that was set up, because now we can go from there to whatever. I think that's kind of what I liked about it.
I mean, what I liked about ending it with Luthen is, for him, he's only hearing that it was successful. So he's just got, you know, the top line good news, but not realizing the costs incurred along the way. No. And then also that Cassian has taken off as well, who Luthen really wanted to be a part of this rebellion. So I'll be curious to see how Luthen feels about, you know, the pluses and minuses of this mission once he gets a better understanding of it.
Right.
But will he care?
Yeah.
I was like, is he one of those people who's like, well, at least the mission worked. Like we got it all happened.
Right. I think it's a success, because they clearly hurt the Empire.
Yep,
So like that's something to be happy about. I do think he's going to be upset by the losses they sustained. But I'm curious, like, you know, because you said, Frank, right? Like the next episode, you said, right, is going to be a time jump.
Well,
there's going to be a time jump this season. I don't know when.
Oh, at some point. Okay, that's good. Okay, because I was thinking for some reason at first that it was going to be next episode, but like
we're saying we're not sure. It could be next.
Right.
Like right now, they could go. I have a feeling. It's just I don't know nothing. I haven't watched anything. I have a feeling next episode's all about the reaction to this.
Right, and that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah,
that's what I'm hoping for.
That's something. That's a reaction. And will we see Val actually give the crystal to Luke and tell him everything? Like I'm curious about that now. Now I want to see it actually. I want to see like everybody talking about it, what's going on, back to this, the stuff. And that's what I'm kind of thinking this next episode will be.
Do you need to see how it has affected the Empire? Because it's one thing if you see the Death Star blow up. I think you all have an idea like, oh, this is a humongous weapon of destruction is gone. I can see how that puts a kink in the Empire. But losing payroll, do you have an idea of like how that affects the Empire? Do you need to see?
Well, Frank, there is some storyline they started before the last episode. They're kind of left. I mean, home with blonde chicks trying to find out what's going on with that guy. I mean, there's a bunch of things going on. So I'm saying it could be more of that. Just kind of, I do kind of want to see that. Kind of see what they want to do next. And like, are they going to go after Cassian? Is he like? Are they going to figure out it was him? I mean, I was kind of curious what's going to happen. Because you have to have some conflict on some level with Cassie because he's a star of the show, I guess, right?
Right.
True. Go ahead, John.
No, well, there are a few things that I would like to see, and I do think that with the episode lengths that we're getting, you could fit a lot of this stuff into one episode. I definitely want to see reaction to what's going on from Luthen, in particular. I want to see because we see him celebrating. And then I want to see him. Now, here's the thing, too, that's interesting to me, right? Because we talked about how Val in the beginning of the mission was like hesitant to tell everybody, like, yeah, it's a go. And by the end of it, she's literally all alone. You know what I mean? Like everybody's either been, killed in the battle or in the mission itself, or Cassian fled and killed Skeen right before. Right before he left, I feel like that was maybe her biggest fear. I want to see what her reaction is to how she responds to this. I want to see Luthen's reaction to hearing that not only did everybody but Val die, but the only other survivor, Cassian, just dipped. He just left. You know what I mean? I want to see his reaction to that. Like, I want to see, how Mon Mothma reacts to this. I want to see. There's so many different things that I want to see. But we didn't even see like our the stiff guy. We didn't see him at all this episode. Yes. And I feel like I don't know why. I just feel like he's going to somehow tie into the blonde Imperial chick.
I think so too.
True. And the nice thing with the time jump is that you can, we can easily jump over any of those like kind of boarding narrative, real time bits. Like, well, you got to go through this process and X, Y, and Z to get rise up higher in the Empire. You can just skip all that in a time jump, and he can just be wherever the story needs him to be to get in the way of Cassian.
And with time jumps, another thing you could do with time jumps, they did on Days of Our Lives. They went ahead a year, but then they would throughout this episode, sometimes they would fill in some of those things as in flashbacks, so you don't have to have them in real in real time. You can go back and go, yeah, I mean, after the rebellion happened, and they can show a little clip of something that happened, and it'd be a quick little clip, and go, oh, okay, that's what happened, or a memory, or I talk about it in a dialogue. Then after that happened, I went to the moon or whatever. Man, I mean, I think it'd be a great thing. A time jump can do several things actually, and still give you fill in some gaps, but also lead you forward. They can do both.
Right.
And I was curious because I mean, like Vel leaves the planet, and her lady companion, she stays behind. We see her at the end of the episode. She just kind of walks out there in her uniform, just amongst the crowd as they're watching the eye. Yeah. I don't know if there's a reunion. I mean, certainly she can't stick around there because her face is known.
Right.
So she's got to hightail it out of there. So
just a skedaddle. The only thing I think next is Sergeant Linus Mosk is listed for 10 episodes on IMDb. Mm-hmm. So it makes me think that Cassian is going home. I don't know.
I wouldn't be surprised because he probably wants to get some money to his adoptive mother, right? Who's been maybe he thinks he can, sneak in somehow and sets up a whole other adventure. You know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah. We see. Oh, the stiff guy did look at a hologram of Cassian, so he's pissed at him. I don't think we're done with him. I don't think we're done.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily think it even has to be done on Cassian's home planet. Right. I think we could see him somewhere else.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. We just don't know what the tie is going to be. That's going to be the story. We don't know how they're going to bring them together because he's at home with his mommy.
I think that's where. Well, I think we're never going to see him again, except just him. The last we saw of him was with that blue milk and that cereal bowl. That was it. As our parting shot. Just
he just became a recluse, eating cereal and blue milk every day for the rest of his life.
I would think about Frank and the udders of the blue cows or whatever you were squeezing last week.
Yeah, I clearly your interwebs have not been burning up with people depicting bantha teats.
No, bantha teats. They didn't happen, you guys. They didn't happen to me.
That's a shame. You missed a fantastic prize from the James Lott Jr. Prize.
I know. The season's not over yet. If you have some bantha teat pictures or anything, send them to me at James Lott Jr. wherever you find me. And
Mark, it might be not safe for work though.
Like a bantha. Like a bantha.
I mean, so there's time, folks. There's always time for that. But anyway, that's really all that happened, and then we're not getting any kind of. There's no other future scenes. Right? It's like they just ended. And that's it. But I'm really enjoying the series. I mean, I really am curious what happens next Wednesday. Whatever it's going to be, I'm very curious. This show has got me excited. I was shocked. I really couldn't believe it.
I mean, and I also, as much as the reactions, I also want to just see how this reacts to people we may not have even seen yet. Because if you're trying to, foment a rebellion, you want people hearing that, oh, hey, it's possible to do damage to these people. So maybe I should get involved. So I'm curious to see other people we've never seen, how they're reacting to like, whoa, this is a real possibility.
Well, no, this is a nice 6-episode arc we just witnessed.
Oh yeah.
So it's nice to go, okay, well now, what's next? Like, this was good. Half a season, it did it. So now, what's next? I'm very excited for that.
I feel like there are other series where this would have been the finale.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Definitely. Oh yeah.
We've gotten 6-episode seasons before.
Yeah.
Very true.
Like this could have been, this is like a mid-season finale. It's like it's interesting in that way. But I don't know. There's so many different things I feel like to look forward to on this show. Like there's so many different characters, so many different storylines, but it doesn't feel like too much. And it's just, I can't wait for next
Trust
week.
Me, I'm watching La Brea. There's like 20 storylines on there. I'm like, who's doing what? And they're over here, and he's over here. They're in 1988, and they're in 2005. I mean, that show, I love it, but I'm just like, yeah. But no, this was a very clean 6 episodes, I think. And so room, you could have wrapped it up. You could have wrapped it up right here. And okay, season 2 is the time jump.
Right.
Season 2 starts a year later or 2 years later. Here you go. But I'm glad. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just felt, I was thinking, like, it's funny because we've been talking about how, like, this was just like, at the end of the day, this was just like a raid on an Imperial base to steal their quarterly payroll, right? It doesn't sound super exciting, but in a way, like, if it is also like what we're talking about, like the first time that the rebellion really makes the Empire hurt, and maybe this helps spark something to, get people to say like, hey, we can fight back. It almost is as big as, blowing up the Death Star. You know what I mean? Like, oh, the Empire has been, just squeezing us for years and years now, and we hit them back. And I almost feel like you kind of saw that in Luthen's laugh at the end of the episode. Like, like the fact that somebody like him, who seems like he's so high up in the rebellion and has this cover, he's on Coruscant, like meeting like important people all the time, and the fact that even he seemed to be just like so elated and so relieved and so excited that like something like this actually happened. It almost does feel like as big as like blowing up the Death Star, like we actually can do this. We can hurt them. You know,
Yeah,
that first realization of that.
I love it. I agree, John, and I'm excited to see, because you see when he's talking to Vel when he first gives her Cassian, how much he needs this to work. He's telling her this needs to work. So you really get the feeling like the rebellion, even in what little larva stage it is in, is it dangerously close to just disintegrating. And so I'm excited to see how Luthen uses this to galvanize. Like, he's now a salesman. How does he, now he's got something that's successful, how does he sell this to everybody else in large and go, everybody jump on board, this is something that can work?
Yeah. There's a part of me that thinks next episode we're going to see Luthen going on a chase to get Cassian back. Because Cassian clearly doesn't want anything to do with this. He gave the crystal back. He bought a ship, and he said, "I'm out of here." And he clearly is not done with the rebellion, based on what we see in Rogue One. So I think we could see some sort of chase here, where Luthen follows him across the galaxy and says, "No, please come back. We need you." Maybe Vel is on that trip with Luthen.
Do you imagine a world where Luthen still is alive in the time of Rogue One? Just because we didn't see him in the movie doesn't mean that he's not alive.
That's true.
Right.
I think he's dead, but I think something happens to him. But you're right. He could be alive.
I would love if he was alive, because I would love his character to survive the series. But I actually think that he's going to die, and it's going to be, something that's very impactful.
A glorious death.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Maybe he saves Cassian's life. Yes. And dies in the process. He saves Cassian's life and dies in the process. I could see something like that happen.
Yeah, people in the chat kind of agree. They think not either. They would love it, but they think he's going to go.
Come on, people. Think happy thoughts.
We don't think positive thoughts in the show. Like, screw me. Watch our show for. Hey, watch our show for Frank. Don't think that way. No, I because I know I see what you're saying, of course. But see that if they did a Rogue 2, I'm just kidding. No, we don't. You don't have to Rogue when they all die. So in a way, his character living wouldn't do anything unless they bring him somewhere else in the universe in the future. But I think he's gonna die. I have that feeling. But it's gonna be, like you said, impactful. Like I say, glorious. It's gonna be a glorious death. I mean, grand and ski and theme and everything.
Yeah.
That's when we're gonna linger on, Frank. You're gonna linger on his death for a while.
It will be something they sing songs of.
Yes, exactly. It's funny. When Frank was saying earlier, I watched a show called The Wire. It's just a spoiler alert, folks. The show was on like 20 years ago, whatever. One of the greatest shows on TV. But at the very end, the lead guy who played this like drug dealing, his name was Omar. He was like very famous. The late Michael K. Williams. His death at the end of the finale was so random and normal. It was weird. So I was like, when Frank brought up earlier about the whole thing, I was like, yeah, he got shot. It was a store robbery happened. He got shot and killed. It wasn't even about him. It wasn't about anything. It just happened. He was in the wrong place, wrong time. And it's like, and I appreciate those kind of things. So I'm with you, Frank. I kind of appreciate it's life. He just that's it. No, kind of like, please tell my friend. None of that happened. He was just shot and killed. That's it. That's it, kids.
Yep, I guess I don't have to watch that show now.
Sorry, it's all ruined. And Sopranos fades to black, folks. Sorry, it fades to black. And Lost, it's all a dream. It was all, they were in purgatory. They all went to heaven. So I'm telling it all, Frank. What else? Newhart. Newhart was actually Bob Newhart's show at the very end. Oh, Bob. I'm telling you, what ending?
St. Elsewhere is all in a snow globe?
It was all this. That's right. St. Elsewhere. It's all in a snow globe. It's an autistic kid. It's a snow globe. That one did piss me off, though. I was like, what? The snow globe. He was like playing St. Elsewhere in it. He was a snow globe. Yeah, all those. All of them. Sex and the City. She does get. We've learned Big's name. His name is John.
And he loves Peloton.
So. Like they said, and then Friends. They all go off on their own. Chandler and Monica have the quadruplets? Okay, what do they have? Like twins? Or I reckon what they had. They had a bunch of stuff. I was like, what other endings kind of ruined? Spoilers! Spoilers!
They had quadruplet quad paws.
Quad paws. Quad paws. I was like, for a doctor, that's very useful. He was like, just do all kind of stuff. He had all the four.
Yeah, right.
I was like,
I'm gonna have to find a four-armed doctor.
But I'm like, but he couldn't save him though. 4 arms, he still couldn't save him.
He
Those
did
extra
get
arms.
he did get pretty. He got hit pretty hard. So
Yeah, that's
surprised. I'm honestly surprised he lived as long as he did. I feel like I thought that thing would have crushed him immediately. It didn't have to hit his head. It would have crushed every other part of his body. Yeah,
it did his legs.
Bad.
Yeah.
But hey, he got them out of there though.
He got them out of there. He did. He couldn't feel his legs, but he was able to navigate them through the sky, which was
climb,
dive. Yeah, dive,
climb. It was like his death was glorious. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
Or his last minutes were glorious.
Yeah, I was bummed he died. That kid. He seemed super into the rebellion.
I had a feeling he would, just because I just had a feeling that the bright-eyed kid. I mean, that's for emotion. This is Star Wars. So Star Wars is part of Disney. You know how that goes.
Yeah.
So I had a feeling that's what was going to. It was like he has to die, because I didn't know he thing did shock me. I was like, oh, he just shot him. That was it. Like, oh dang, it was all lies. So that kind of shocked me. But and again, the ladies, tell me when we get out of this.
Yeah. But see, I see things like that, and then it's like, Lucas, you still didn't need to go back and try to make Greedo shoot first. Han shooting first, absolutely fine, guys. Absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Frank for you. That's Frank for you. That's what he thinks. Folks, I'll tell you guys. That's what he thinks. Luthen is everything to his first season. Yes. Okay, folks. That's it, kids. We talked about it. We'll be back next Wednesday. Tomorrow night, it's the She-Hulk finale. I don't know if it's season or series. But Frank, the ladies are coming back, Candace and Kim. Anthony, we don't know about John yet. We'll see. He has the challenge. He has a challenge with the challenge. So, right, this tomorrow night, right? That's the challenge.
Yeah, we're talking about challenge season premiere.
Yeah, so that's right. But the rest of it will be here at 8:00 Pacific Standard Time here on JLJ Media. Only Murders in the Building, season 2. Me and Aaron will talk about that next Monday. I love the second season. Can't wait for the third season. I saw that ending, Frank, was kind of funny. And I was like, and who showed up? I was like, is that who I think that is? That was kind of fun. And so we do that on Monday at 7 p.m. Me and Aaron Wallace, we talk about the whole season of Only Murders in the Building. See, if you haven't watched the series, go to Hulu, binge watch it. It's worth it. Right, Frank? It's worth it.
It is. Great show.
I love Only Murders in the Building.
Oh, you saw it too. Yes, I know you saw it. Okay, yeah, it's totally
such a good show.
And the third
such a good show.
I know. And the third, I'm like, oh, now they're going to do. But anyway, watch our show on Monday. We'll talk about that. The Soap Block is here this Sunday. Frank and I are back tomorrow. I almost said One Life to Live. How about General Hospital?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, General Hospital.
Esme is back.
Esme. Wide Army Spotlight, Born Beautiful Me Spotlight. We're all back on Sunday doing that show, of course. I know. I'm watching Yellowstone right now, Beauty Fresh. I'm watching it. It's 4 seasons I have to watch. I mean, I may do an after show. Who knows? I'm loving it. I mean, I'm loving it. Also, keep it going. That's why we keep it going, you guys. Also, check out our Mandalorian season 2 after show. Check out our Book of Boba Fett after show. Check out our Obi-Wan Kenobi after show. Check out my Darth Vader is Your Father. Those are all my podcasts here on JLJ Media, where most of these people sit in this room right here. Well, not in this room, in our rooms right here. Check those out also wherever you find your fine Star Wars product. We know you have many choices in Star Wars reactions videos. So thank you for shopping at JLJ Media. We love you guys. We'll see